Never running out of things to say on a date comes down to talking about the future, forgiving yourself in that the things that you say are within the bounds of normal conversation, and volunteering information even if you don't think that it's relevant. Let me go into those three things. First of all, when you go on a date, there's always gonna be that interview that you need to do. You need to tell your story and ask her story. She's gonna say, where did you grow up? What's your job? What are your hobbies? And for you gotta bear in mind that range of emotion, both the serious, the fact, and the funny. So you can say, I grew up in this part of the world, here's a funny take. I do this job, I really love it, I'm passionate about it, but this part is funny. Here is my hobby, and a little self-deprecation or self-teasing about your hobby. For example, I actually grew up in Australia, one of the greatest countries in the world, and the truth about beer and fighting kangaroos, it's true. Onto your job, you could say. So I actually work in the legal field. It is true what they say, we're pretty much all evil geniuses. A little self-aggrandizing, a little self-deprecation. Then you can say your hobby. So yeah, I love jogging. I'm one of those saddos who goes to the run club every morning. I'm so excited that I go to bed early every night. So you're injecting a little bit of that emotion from the very beginning. And the more dates that you go on, the more you kind of give this elevator pitch of who you are and what you do in terms of origin, occupation, and hobbies. And you continue to kind of refine that and evolve that and make that first part of the date, funny and interesting. Now, when you're really starting to run out of things to say on the date and you start talking about the future, what we mean by that is if you start talking about hypotheticals. Hypotheticals are not facts. They are things that have never happened before, that could happen, that you dream of happening, that you're excited about happening, that you're worried about not happening. There's so much emotion when you talk about the future because the future is hopes and dreams and higher stakes. It's inherently emotional, which is great date conversation. If you're talking about, I dream of traveling to XYZ, those crazy mountain formations in China, it's a dangerous trip, it's exciting, I hear it's breathtaking. Would you want to go there? Now remember, everything that you talk about, you then talk about with your date as well. Would you want to go there? Do you think that's cool? Where would you want to go and why? Because that's exciting, because you've got a spiritual connection. Would you? That's the hypothetical. What do you want to do with your career? What is your dream job? Why is that your dream job? Because of the influence, because of the impact, because of the profound sense of self-respect you would achieve. All of those emotional implications come from talking about the professional realm of who the person is and what they want to do. And then on the more recreational side of things, talking about the future, I'd love to have this experience or that experience or ayahuasca or scuba diving in the Caribbean or whatever it might be. When you talk about the future, you can dream together. And dreaming together creates connection. It fires up the imagination. You get away from fact, which lives in the past. And there needs to be a little bit of fact, telling who you are, where you've come from, what you want to do. But your real personality, the person that you want to be, exists in the future. Who you are is a combination of where you've come from, how you're living now, and what you want to be. So you're continually defining what you want to be with your imagination and your actions, and you can share that on the date when you start to run out of things to say. The second concept is a little bit more esoteric. You need to understand that when you're speaking to somebody, there is a wide range of normal topics of conversation, and these are kind of like good-natured, good vibe filler conversation. So people have conversations all day, every day with friends, with family, with coworkers, and it's just a good vibe. So just by you making conversation, even talking about facts that may not be that profound or groundbreaking or anything like that, that alone creates companionship. And companionship through verbal conversation is worth its weight in gold. Now you might be sitting there thinking, I don't have anything interesting to say. That's fine. If you don't have anything interesting to say. If you have companionship, that's important and that's brilliant. That's what the recipient in the conversation, what the girl or woman is looking for. So you can sit there and talk about your job, the local area, your pet, what you want to do, interesting things happening with you and your friends. But the important thing here is you're kind of just going with the flow until one of your more general ideas that create companionship, your general verbal flow, that will lead to a more interesting idea, funny idea, or a crazy idea, or an interesting story, or a hope or a dream that you want to talk about. But you need to forgive yourself that it's good to have normal filler conversation. Think about a comedian on stage. If you see like, Russell Brand or Bill Burr, some of these guys doing stand-up, they will kind of go around the audience, where are you from, sir? Where are you from, madam? And when asking, where are you from? What do you do? That's quote unquote normal, boring, but totally acceptable. Builds a connection. It's comforting to the audience, in your case, comforting to the recipient. And then from that will lead to a funny idea. So imagine if you're having a conversation and you have 100 talking points, you might go through 12 or 15 talking points before you get to an interesting and emotional talking point, an interesting story, or complimenting the recipient on something that she does brilliantly. teasing your date on something that you think is kind of funny and crazy and predictable and cliche. The famous words are, girls are not excited to be with a guy who's a great conversationalist. Girls are excited to be with a guy who never has awkward silences. Even then, if you fall into an awkward silence, you can simply go over something that you've said before. Decorations in this place are great. The food here is so good. I still think your hair looks so beautiful tonight. And that fires up another line of conversation that can take you somewhere that you hadn't been before. It starts to extrapolate and expand and lead to other ideas. So forgive yourself on the concept of you needing to be high octane with everything that you say in conversation. Think of your conversation over the course of a date and a relationship as a bubbling brook of normal stuff that occasionally makes a wave or makes a ripple or makes an impact. That's all it needs to be. And even then, if you came in like a comedian swinging for the fence with every sentence that you said, you just sound over the top, insecure, not ideal. Third concept for you to wrap your head around in order to make infinite conversation on dates is that you are allowed to simply volunteer information. When you waste your valuable time scrolling on TikTok or Instagram or whatever it might be, you are the recipient of volunteered information. You didn't know that you would be interested in that dog or that event or that firework or that news or that politics or that drama or that disgusting animal thing happening on Instagram. You didn't know that you would be interested in that. And that's you as the recipient. But if you're there sitting on the date and your recipient, your date, the girl, the woman is with you, and you just start volunteering stories or facts or observations, things that are going through your head, it's just bringing up conversational fodder, things to share, things to ruminate over. And that lack of awkward silence, that flowing conversation, and it can be very low consciousness stuff, talking about the menu, the food, the view, the cars, the real estate, the weather, any of that kind of stuff is all totally fine. And then if you start with a topic like the weather, oh, there was a storm here last year, or there was a flood here 10 years ago. You don't even need any relevance to bring up your topics. In the same way that if you're scrolling, there's no relevance from one reel to the other, and that variability is so stimulating on that variable reward pattern. You never know what you're gonna like and not like. That makes things super fascinating for a person to sit with you on a date and to walk away having thought that guy was so interesting. Imagine you talk about something really technical in your profession without her even asking. You could start by saying, hey, we're working on this fascinating thing. Let me try to explain it to you. Or there was this crazy flood that happened in my city like 10 years ago. Like, oh, really? I was just looking out at the weather. I remember this flood. You can volunteer compliments about the person that you're talking to. By the way, I find your earrings, the way you move, the way you express yourself. Were you a ballerina? Were you a dancer? You can volunteer these things out of nowhere. In the same way, it's super addictive when you experience that on your dating apps. As a bonus, and I've spoken about this in other videos, you need to add some sexuality, some intimacy, and some emotional connection in your communication. And if you add into the conversation, especially towards the end of the conversation, personalized comments, where you say, you really help me to relax. You have such a soothing, lovely energy as a date, as a girl, as a woman, a feminine energy. You're allowed to say that. I really appreciate your feminine energy. You're allowed to say, I'm really attracted to you. You're allowed to say that. Don't require reciprocation. Don't be waiting for validation of what you said. Say it and move on. So now you know, on a date, talk about things in the future. Forgive yourself that generally you can talk about normal stuff and that it's all gonna be within the bounds of normal. Go ahead and generously volunteer any information, ideas, story, observations, compliments, and teasers. Just bring them up out of nowhere. Bringing up a topic that's not related to the former topic is very interesting and shows your creativity and a very active mind. It really makes it interesting for the recipient because you're the kind of guy who never runs out of things to say on dates.